Are those Cheerios I see?
Cheez-Its, my friend.
Look at you.
I told you. We talked about this the other day, man. And these are the right blend of salt and the cheese, man.
Absolutely.
That box, they nailed it.
What flavor was those again? Is that the originals?
Yeah, the old school. You know me, man. Do you think I'm going to get creative here or tricky?
No, you're right, man. I don't like white cheddar. Everyone talks about white cheddar. I don't.
My wife does. I don't, man.
I'm an OG kind of guy. My wife kills me, right? So obviously, I'm pretty sure everyone's heard of crumble cookies, right?
Oh,
and
yes.
they always change their roster of cookies every week, and but every week they always stay consistent with the chocolate chip, always. But they change everything else. Every time me and my wife go, she always gets something different. She always has to try the new flavors, whatever it is. Me. Give me the chocolate chip, baby.
Yes, I know. My go-tos are what I know. I'm not going to get burned by my go-tos. I know.
Right, and my wife hates it. She's like, can you please try something else? Yep. I'm like, nah. If you can make a good chocolate chip cookie, that's all I need from you. That's all I need from you.
Yeah, I hear you. By the way, let's throw up the GoFundMe again, Tone, for Derek Gunn, and let me sing the praises of our incredible, support system that we have with all of you guys. We appreciate you. But anyway, if you go to Facebook, you go to D Gunn's personal page, the GoFundMe page is right there. And you, Tone, have you pinned that thing where we can?
Yep. It's pinned at the top of the chat. So all you guys that are in the YouTube live stream right now, you're all able to click on that link to support Derek Gunn, our friend, our family member, Derek Gunn, and his wife Trish, and their family as they go through a really turbulent time right now. Health is always wealth, you guys, and best believe it's important to always take care of ourselves, take care of our loved ones whenever they need us, and the Gunn family can use all the support that they can get. So again, $1, whatever you are able or willing to spare, just know that dollar is going to a great cause. And we appreciate you guys so much for always holding us down and being supporters of the show and the YouTube channel. It means a lot, and it goes a long way with us.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can, if you're looking for anonymity, you can see there that you can go as an anonymous donor. So you don't, nobody knows what's going on. You want to keep it private. We appreciate you, and however you slice it. So feel free. You can do it. If you want to put your name on it, great. And whatever you want to do is awesome. Anything you can do is appreciated. So
and also, you guys remember, a lot of you guys have YouTube name handles, right? A lot of you guys have YouTube handles. If you want, you know what I mean, put your YouTube handle in there so D Gunn knows whenever he comes back, he can shout you out on the show. So make sure you guys think about that as well. If you want to put your full name, cool. If you want to put your YouTube handle, hey, it all matters. At the end of the day, the support is always felt. So again, if you put your YouTube name, on your donation, when we're going to see it, and we're going to promote you guys. We're going to talk about you guys, and we're thankful for you guys. But even if you can't donate, just the prayers, means a lot as well. So continue to show love for our guy D Gunn and his wife.
And I see Vlad asking what happened. So Derek's wife had a very serious medical emergency. And
yes, if you go on to GoFundMe, it'll explain everything.
Yep.
All you have to do is click the link, and it'll explain everything in grave detail. Regarding Derek Gunn and what's been going on with them as of late. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Appreciate it, everybody. Thank you. All right, back to the Eagles and the things we were talking about. All right, so Eagles who have left, Tom. Now, I would say probably, and tell me if you disagree, there were two headliners of this group. Javon Hargrave being one of them, CJ being the other. Would you agree that they're kind of 1 and 2 here?
Yeah, for sure. I would say they were the top two for sure in terms of production and name.
Okay.
A close third would be TJ Edwards for me, and then Miles Sanders.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go there then. Let's start with Hargrave because he goes to the 49ers. Already loaded defensive line, which they've already added Chase Young to, which is crazy. But you look at his season so far, and he started off pretty well, but you look at it, 8 games, 22 tackles, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. And keep in mind he's a defensive tackle, so the numbers sometimes don't tell the full story. But
we know he's not good in the run.
He's not.
And I mean, he is tied, for team lead in sacks on the 49ers with Nick Bosa, but they haven't been able to get to the quarterback, and that's why they brought in Randy Gregory. That's why they brought in Chase Young. They're struggling to get to the quarterback. So that's an indictment on not just Nick Bosa, but also Javon Hargrave.
Yes, he has been underwhelming, and certainly for the money that they gave him, upwards of $23 million.
Yeah, he hasn't registered a sack since October 1st in the Arizona matchup.
Okay,
Other than that, over his past 3 games, he's been registered sackless. And as a matter of fact, I believe he didn't play one of those games because he was hurt. I'm not sure what injury he's nursing right now, but he hasn't necessarily been worth the price of admission, so to speak.
Right.
But here's the fascinating thing about it. I'll take it a step further, Rob. We've talked about the guys we've lost, and this is what's going to make this segment so fun is we're going to go player by player what the Eagles lost and what they replaced it with. And we're going to compare production to see if the Eagles got value, their money's worth. Did they make a mistake? We're going to uncover it, top to bottom, left and right. So we're, like you said, Rob Hargrave, that's the first guy, right?
Right. So just on him, I mean, basically he's been replaced by
Jalen Carter,
who has outperformed him. He just flat out has, because Jalen Carter is a two-way player. Jalen Carter is a run defender and a pass defender, and he has been more productive than Javon Hargrave. So not only did you upgrade the position, you saved yourself a ton of money in the process. I mean, it's really not close. And Jake Friel is right. Jalen Carter is a clear upgrade over Hargrave. So and
here's some more context for you guys here. According to PFF, I like what PFF does. They're not the Bible, but I do feel like they give a pretty decent account of how players are doing.
Yep.
Javon Hargrave on the season, he has an overall PFF grade of 75.1. That's cool, but a guy like Javon Hargrave, when he's making, you expect much higher, right?
Yeah.
But he has an overall grade of 75. Jalen Carter, a rookie, has an overall PFF grade of 90.6.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
He has 5 sacks on the season and a forced fumble. And another thing to keep in mind, with Hargrave making all that money from the 49ers, giving him $20+ million, the Eagles essentially let him walk. They took a risk. They let him walk.
Mm-hmm.
And they drafted Jalen Carter, not knowing they were going to be able to fall, not knowing he would fall to them. But they got Jalen Carter, and they are paying Jalen Carter, I believe, an average of $3 to $5 million per season because he's on a rookie deal.
Right.
So they're getting more production from the position. He's a more talented pass rusher. He's way more effective in run defense, and you're paying him essentially $15 million to $17 million less than you would have paid Javon Hargrave. And also, to add more context to that situation, Javon Hargrave, he's playing 64% of the defensive snaps for the San Francisco 49ers. When it comes to Jalen Carter, he's only playing about 40% of the snaps.
That's unbelievable. I'll tell you the other one that you throw in there, piggybacking with Carter, is Jordan Davis. The way Jordan Davis has developed from just a run stuffer to a guy who could also play the pass. So you talk about two complete detail, and Fletcher Cox is that way too. Even Milton Williams to an extent. The 4 of your defensive tackles are very complete players. Like, you don't have to necessarily take them off the field in either situation, run or pass. So you're fine there. In fact, you've upgraded there. Okay. It's not to say Hargrave's a bad player. We know he was a good Eagle. He was a very good.
Let me adjust that. Carter's playing 49% of the snaps right now. Okay. 49%. That's still less than what that's still significantly less than what Javon Hargrave is doing. So Carter's giving you more production. He's more talented. You're paying him less, and he's playing way less snaps.
I agree. And he's just going to get better. Like, Hargrave, for whatever he is either flatlining or going down. Carter's going up, for sure. So is Davis. All right, Miles Sanders. Let's go there with Sanders next. So he's played 8 games, 224 rushing yards. That's 3.2 yards per carry. He's only found the end zone once. He's got 28 yards, 20 receptions for 118 yards. You know, he's only averaging 28 yards per game. Last night, 2 rushes, -5 yards. Okay, so let me be fair before we dive into this. Their offensive line stinks, and Bryce Young is getting beat up, and they're a bad team. But he probably got as good a deal on the open market for running backs as virtually anybody out there. And I think Chuba Hubbard's better. He's not even their one, really.
I felt like they didn't have to go out there and reach for Miles Sanders. I felt like they should have gave Chuba Hubbard a legit shot and maybe drafted a running back and then went from there.
Agreed. He's just not, you know, here's what you look at last year. How much of that was he was running behind an unbelievable offensive line that was a year younger, that had Isaac Seumalo, right? I mean, you know, Sanders was a fine running back. He wasn't, but I don't think he was a great running back. I think there's a lot of running backs in this league that could have had good success last year behind that line. And Swift's been fine. I want to see Swift be able to maintain this through 17 games, because I think he's dipping a little bit, maybe with the workload a little bit.
Yeah, he has. He hasn't had more than, I believe, 18 carries since about week 3.
Right.
So they're definitely tipping off his carries. And you brought up a good point with Miles Sanders being, you brought up a good point with Miles Sanders running behind this offensive line, right? But Boston Scott averages 4 yards per carry over his career behind his offensive line. That should tell you right then and there. And I think Miles Sanders is more talented than Boston Scott. And also, to add more context, DeJ Swift, he's having a career year behind his offensive line in terms of rushing yards. Through over 135 carries, he has 614 total rushing yards. His career high is 617 through 13 games played for the Detroit Lions. So he's going to crush. He's going to crush his career high in carries. He's going to crush his career high in yards, and he's already doing pretty well in terms of yards per attempt, averaging 4.5 yards per attempt. Now, granted, he's still living off of those 2 games from week 2 and week 3. But the bottom line is, he's been a stable force in the run game, guaranteeing you about 50 yards per game for the most part. That's much better than what Miles Sanders is providing right now. And Miles Sanders, I think he's been hurt as well. He's fumbled a lot over the season, for them. So, look, man, I knew the Philadelphia Eagles weren't going to bring him back, and the Panthers, I feel like they kind of reached paying him. They kind of overreacted.
Yeah, agreed. All right, let's keep it rolling. I think they absolutely missed this guy, 100%. TJ Edwards.
Yes.
Keep in mind, we're always trying to give you context here. He's playing on a bad team that's defensive line has not been particularly effective, which means he is probably going to get more tackles than a lot of linebackers will get. However, he's got 112 tackles.
Yes. He currently leads the league in tackles right now.
He's got 2 sacks. He's got 5 tackles for losses. He's forced a fumble. He's recovered a fumble. And they didn't give him a ton of money. Now, the one thing that we keep hearing is he wanted to go back home. He's from the Chicago area. If that's the case, if it was a deal where he was just like, listen, guys, I want whatever, then that's different. But
yeah. But also, the Eagles didn't even make him an offer. Remember, you always have a window in time to offer your guys something before they even hit free agency.
Yeah.
And the Eagles didn't offer him a dime. They essentially decided to let him walk, and they were going to bank on the Kobe Dean, and we already know how that's been panning out.
I think they miss him. He's a good player. TJ Edwards is a really solid player.
He is. Now, here's what I'll add to that, Rob. Again, we're all about context, and we're all about the details here. TJ Edwards right now on the season, he has an average PFF. He has an overall PFF grade of 80.2. That's a really, really, really good number. All things considered, with him being on a really, really bad Chicago Bears team. He's been doing his job to the best of his ability. He's kind of been a stabilizing force in the chaos. Kobe Dean, on the other hand, a 61.7 PFF grade. Now, granted, he hasn't been able to play consistent reps because he's gotten hurt. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to get a real gauge on how good he can be. But one player that you can get a good gauge on, because he's gotten most of the snaps at the middle linebacker, is Nicholas Morrow. He has a higher PFF grade than TJ Edwards with 84.9. So when you factor all that into account, the Philadelphia Eagles have kind of been cutting their nose despite their face, trying to force feed us Nakobe Dean. When in reality, the best linebacker on the team right now, or at least the most reliable, has been Nicholas Morrow, according to PFF. He has a higher grade than TJ Edwards. Now, granted, Nicholas Morrow plays behind one of the best defensive fronts in football. It definitely makes your life easier.
Yeah.
So I think TJ Edwards is better than Nicholas Morrow because he doesn't really have too much up front and still does his job to the best of his ability. But you got to give Nicholas Morrow credit for operating at a high level in the situation he's in. I'm really excited to see what this linebacker core looks like going forward. And I think Nicholas Morrow should be the starter for the rest of the season. Also, they're not paying Nicholas Morrow anything. Remember, Rob, we're going to examine everything, value, and all that kind of stuff. They're not paying Nicholas Morrow anything. He's playing fairly well in his situation. TJ Edwards is making about $6.5–7 million per season. So if things trend in the right direction for Morrow, the Eagles have kind of won that I guess you'll say win-loss ratio in terms of losing Edwards and Nicholas Morrow. But again, I would have loved to have kept TJ Edwards here. I don't want it to get lost. I'm a TJ Edwards guy.
All right, let's go Kaiser White because he trended the wrong way to close out last year. I don't fault them for letting him walk. Okay, I want to say that. But he's played well for the Cardinals. He's done a nice job. Again, you talk about another garbage team. You have to always keep that in mind, with some of these stats, which may be padded a little bit because the guys in front of them are not necessarily doing their job. But Kaiser White, 76 tackles, 2 sacks, 9 tackles for loss. He does have an interception he's playing for Jonathan Gannon out there in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a nice year for them. He's given them what they would have hoped out of him. But this is not one where I think the Eagles could have done a better job keeping TJ Edwards. I'm okay that they let Kaiser White go. To his credit, he's playing pretty decent.
Yeah, Kaiser White, he got some good money from Arizona. So I'm always going to be for a guy getting his coin first and foremost. I wasn't too hell-bent on them keeping Kaiser White. He played well, but he kind of tapered off towards the end of the season. So I kind of my game plan was to keep TJ Edwards, matriculate Nakobe Dean into that off-ball linebacker spot, essentially into that Kaiser White role, and allow him to kind of roam and kind of use him as a blitzer or however you want to use him. But the Eagles decided to get rid of both of them and place Nakobe Dean in that spot, and then they brought in Zack Cunningham to kind of fill in that Kaiser White role. I like Zack Cunningham. He's been a stabilizing force at the linebacker position. A lot of things that don't get talked about Zack Cunningham. Zack Cunningham he's been in this league for a long time. He's been a productive linebacker for the better part of his career. He's just battled injury over the past couple seasons and couldn't really stay out of the ice bath. But now he appears to be healthy. I don't think he's missed any games for the Philadelphia Eagles. Another thing to keep in mind is they're not paying Zack Cunningham anything. And Kaiser White is making about almost $8 million per season with the Arizona Cardinals. And also Kaiser White, he has an overall PFF grade of 57.9, while Zack Cunningham has an overall PFF grade of 70.9. Right. So based off the PFF metrics, the Philadelphia Eagles linebackers are playing a little bit better than what Kaiser White and TJ Edwards are doing. But again, they got to put it all together and get some consistent reps out of Nicholas Morrow and Zack Cunningham if they want this thing to really look good in the long term.
All right, let's go Marcus Epps, let's go CJGJ first because, season-ending injury. He only played in 2 games. It's unfortunate. He certainly had a really good year for the Eagles last year, and it got kind of weird with them and him, and he moved on to Detroit and got hurt. So that's one you just throw out. It's to me, you can't judge anything on that right now. We don't know. We don't know if he would have gotten hurt here. We don't know how he would have played here. We know he got a lot of I think he had 6 interceptions for the Eagles last year, which is something they need. They missed that kind of playmaking ability for sure. But he got hurt. So that's all.
Yeah. It's always unfortunate where when a guy gets hurt because it's kind of hard to really get a real gauge on what they could have done, and you can't really compare. It's kind of hard to even put that kind of, really, it's not fair to rate guys who got hurt. I think he's only played like two games or something like that.
That was it. He played 2 games. That's all. Yeah. So throw that one out for
you really can. But the Eagles, they they lost Marcus Epps as well. If you want to, talk about him, right?
Well, that's where I was going to go. 40 tackles, 3 tackles for losses. I think the combination of the both and I think Blankenship's been fine, but, he's also learning on the fly. And then you combine that with it's been a revolving door next to him. And now it looks like it's finally settled in with Byard as while he learns the system here.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Tone. It's all been complicated with Devonte Maddox going out. Brian Dawkins yesterday really sung the praises of Devonte Maddox, man. And I think it was the most underrated loss of the year for the Eagles.
He's a good player.
Yep.
He's a good player. Just can't stay on the
hurt
field
all the time. I know he's hurt all the time.
Can't stay on the field, man, because he's such a small dude. Yeah. And he throws his body like Devonte Maddox is a fearless defender. Yeah. He throws his body around and he doesn't care how he gets there. He just gets there. And it sucks that he's battled injury, and his loss has really had a really significant impact on just pass coverage in general. But yeah, Marcus Epps, he got a good amount of money from the Las Vegas Raiders. Right now he has a 60.5 overall grade among safeties, so that's average, I guess, so to speak. Kevin Byard and Reed Blankenship over the course of the season. Reed Blankenship has played really well. He's had some moment like that. That Washington game, I think, was his worst game by far, but that was a game where he came back from injury. And that was also Kevin Byard's first game, if I'm not mistaken. So on the season, Reed Blankenship has an 84.5 overall grade from PFF. That's tremendous from that position for a guy who was undrafted last season. Yep. And again, you guys, I reference PFF because I lean on them, for certain aspects to get a general consensus of what a player is doing. PFF isn't the Bible, yep, but they do a pretty good job of consolidating a guy's production into a single number. Yep. And 84.5 from Reed Blankenship, even if it's a rough number, that's still a good number to be in that percentile. Is pretty good. Kevin Byard is at 65.7. So that's really not necessarily where he's used to being. But I think he's a player that's going to trend up as he gets more comfortable in the situation and as the chemistry continues to grow between him and Reed Blankenship and those other DBs like Slay and Bradbury and those guys. So the main problem with the Philadelphia Eagles defense is the injuries, and the injuries have really had a key impact on the continuity and the communication in that defense. And I think that's why they look so bad. And also the lack of continuity at linebacker, constantly trying to rotate Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow in, it's led to a lot of miscommunication. I think once they get some stability out there, for the next several weeks, we're going to see this defense really trend in the right direction. That's me being optimistic.
You're getting bodies back, including Justin Evans, including other guys. So that I think that area should improve. I don't think it's going to be a shutdown secondary. Let me be clear, but they'll be better. Yeah. The last one is, and again, it's hard to do measurables with offensive linemen unless they're just turnstiles giving up sacks left and right. But Isaac Seumalo was a nice, solid player for them, and he went to the Steelers, and good for him. He got paid. It's like the Eagles had a capable replacement. Jurgen stepped in, and it was playing excellent until he got banged up. That's one that's just like, okay, that's the cost of doing business. You move on. Not a big deal. And by the way, who's been brutal? Dillard in Tennessee has had a really tough time.
I forgot about Dillard. He lost his job. You know that, right?
Yes, he had a really tough time.
He got benched.
Tennessee. Yes. So again, I understand he was a backup. He was depth and all that, but oh my gosh, it has not been good for him there in Tennessee. That's really it. I don't think we're missing any other what I would call big pieces that have moved on. There was some people wanted Minshew re-signed as the backup. Whatever. He was okay. He's been okay with the Colts. Let's face it.
He's a sparky player. It's like he's like he's the definition of a backup. Like he can generate some offense.
Yeah.
And he could probably win you a couple games or so, but you don't want him.
You're not winning a Super Bowl with Gardner.
Yeah, you don't want him playing 6 or 7 games in your season. You don't want that.
No.
But losing Isaac Seumalo, I think they're feeling that a little bit. Because they've dealt with injuries at that right guard position. Now Isaac has had his own injuries in the past, but last year he was pretty healthy. Got a big contract, like you mentioned. Has an overall 65.8 PFF grade at the right guard spot. So that's decent. He's usually better than that, but
Yeah.
that's fair. Ken Jurgens for the snaps he's played, a 65.2 overall grade. So they kind of based off PFF's metric, they haven't really lost too much.
No, and keep in mind, Jurgens is more ideally a center, and he's also in his first year starting.
Exactly.
So you got to give him a little room for growth. I think he'll be fine. I'm not worried about Cam Jurgens at all, and they expect him back after in Kansas City, by the way.
Right.
All right, let's hit it. Let's look at some of the big games, Tone, when we come back. You got a couple NFC East. Dallas is a 17-point favorite this week over the Giants.
That's a college number.
I mean, whoa. You have the Commanders and the Seahawks. We'll also dive into the 49ers, Jaguars, really good game. Lions and Chargers. We're going to do all that because they're games that directly relate to the Eagles. A couple of NFC East contenders and some teams that are jockeying for seeding with the Eagles. So we'll do that. Then we go into our full NFL segment there. In that, we will do our top 5 quarterback rankings, top 5 QB rankings we will do today, in addition to some other stuff that's going on around the league. We'll close it out. We'll give you some Sixers and Flyers and a couple other things, some college hoops as well. So we'll get a lot to do between now and 2 p.m. Eastern. So don't go anywhere. That's Tone DeShields. I'm Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. As I told you guys, Pro Action Restoration was at my house on Wednesday and Thursday. In fact, I have their equipment here right now because I had a problem. I had a major flood from one bathroom upstairs that leaked into another bathroom and essentially destroyed the ceiling in my bathroom and in my basement, and the adjoining wall in my bathroom as well. So what they're doing right now is they are drying everything out with these industrial fans. They have sprayed anti-mold and all over and treated my house with anti-mold, so there isn't any mold issues. Then they will rebuild the ceilings and the wall and get everything taken care of. And I'm in good hands with Pro Action Restoration. So if you have a home, you have a business, you have a property, and you go through water like I did, fire, smoke, or mold damage, you know how trying that can be. You're not really sure who to turn to, but you can turn to Pro Action Restoration. They're on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured, and they've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So again, water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation, you name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.